So, can I stop overusing the phrase, he clocked that during our recordings?
I mean, I re-listened to the recordings because I edit them, and there was a part of, I think maybe it was episode 7 where you said clocked a lot in like
So
the
much.
first two scenes, but after that it kind of stopped, and so I don't know. It's okay.
I was re-listening to that when you sent it to me, and I was like, could I stop? Do I have to say that all the time? I even started to write it at one point in my notes for this week's episode, and I stopped myself. I was like, I can't say that phrase ever again.
I absolutely wrote that in my notes this week. Like when I was writing clock, I was like, he did clock that, and then I left. But I think it might be. Now, don't like definitely quote me on this, but I think that might actually be a phrase that Sean uses early or Henry uses early in this series, and that's how you and I got used to saying it.
Oh, maybe. That would be making me feel better
Yeah.
if I got it holistically from them.
My brain is telling me that Henry said that early on. Maybe it was during the hat test in the first episode when Sean was all grown up.
Oh. I might have to look into that. All right.
I'm just gonna say that for the time being, and we can always correct it later.
Right. Okay. Deal.
Do we need a trigger warning for this episode?
I mean, we do deal with aging parents and early onset Alzheimer's. Pretty early, we kind of get that. I think I have I have a lot I can say about that. I think you have some experience with that too, and I will say that it is a touchy issue, and I think that they show that well.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's going to come up. So if that's, a trigger for you, just be forewarned. And again, this show is very of its time, but I do think that they handle things pretty well on the whole.
I agree. I think it's important for us to put out there that this is a topic that's being touched a lot during this episode. So if you can't handle it right now, that's totally okay. Stop here. Fast forward a little bit. We'll talk about a pineapple at some point, I'm sure. But let's just be honest. I don't know that anyone's listening to our podcast. So
Hey, they're always welcome, though.
everybody, share with your friends, please. That's to the blueberrypodcast at gmail.com. And I say we start the episode.
Showtime.
We are on season 1, episode 9, Forget Me Not.
And this is...
And this is To the Blueberry! I always forget that part. I need to learn to say that at the beginning.
That's okay.
We are a real life set of Sean and Gus's. I'm Alexis. I'm a Gus.
And I'm Kaylee, and I'm the Sean.
And we are doing a psych rewatch podcast for really no other reason besides having a good excuse to rewatch Psych and to talk to one another once a week.
Yeah, I super like having a really good excuse to do that. Not that we need it, but...
But it's working. It's very helpful, I think. So, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Season 1, episode 9, Forget Me Not, is the episode. And we start our episode, as we always do, well, as we often do, with a flashback to 1986.
And I could not, for the life of me, get Peacock to reveal what the date at the bottom of the screen was, because it just kept blocking it for me. So I was like,
Really?
I'm assuming it's 1986.
It was. I got you.
And we're on a zoo trip with little baby Sean.
Oh, little baby Sean's so cute. There are a bunch of people because it's a school trip, and there are a bunch of chaperones. So Henry's on the trip as a chaperone, and some other parents are on the trip. Sean cracks this joke at a little girl about her being a monkey and how, look, Trish, there's your family.
Yeah, he's tormenting this little girl in a way that elementary school students, particularly boys, are wont to do. And it's insufferable, but his dad does get onto him. Like, Henry does, like, Sean, I'm watching you. Like, don't show your ass. And Sean is, like, has a tennis ball that he's, like, bouncing around. I mean, we see that.
And at one point, he, like, throws the tennis ball at Trish's back. Trish is one of the little girls at the school that he's making fun of. I think I already said that.
Mm-hmm.
He's throwing it like at her back and just kind of picking on her insistently. And then the very next cut is Sean talking to his teacher because they're at the ostrich pit.
Yeah, and we see the ostrich, and it has like a lump in its throat, and it's like, we hear like, I don't know if they're ADR, but it's like harsh swallowing sounds amidst bird sounds. So something's happening, and Sean's pointing it out.
Sean's trying to tell the teacher, but the teacher is just like, oh, that's how ostriches eat. That's what happens. No big deal.
I'm pretty sure that's not food. Sean knows it's something.
The ostrich is definitely choking, and it was choking on his tennis ball. Now, because it was his tennis ball, everyone assumed that he was the one who threw it into the highly restricted ostrich area.
Henry is getting on to him. He's like, that thing could have died. They would have made me pay for it. I don't know how much an ostrich costs. Sean says emphatically, like, it wasn't me who threw that. He does not deny that it was his ball.
They end up on the bus, Sean's denying it, and Captain Brent Connors, who is Trish's dad.
I did not get his first name, so thank you. Captain Connors.
He comes on the bus and absolutely believes Sean. He looked at him and said, I think he's telling the truth. I don't think he threw that ball in the ostrich pit. And one of them, either Connors or Henry, asked him, well, do you know who did? And Sean just peers out the window.
He says nothing, because he's no snitch. He says, listen, I think it was an accident. I think whoever threw it was aiming for me. So the ostrich thinks it's a mistake. No one's trying to murder a bird. And so I love that. It's like he's accepting responsibility that, like, he was involved, but he's not snitching, and he didn't do it. So I'm like, when a kid gets that specific about owning something, I'm likely to believe them, you know?
Well, Captain Brent Connors was too, because the scene ends with Connors saying, I believe you, Sean, and then walking off the bus. And we see Connors kind of talking to Trish, because I think he kind of knows what's going on.
Yeah, or he's like, does she maybe know what's going on? But yeah, the scene ends with, you know, Captain Connors talking to Trish and Sean watching them out the window. Cut to present day. Sean's looking out the psych window, which has a green logo.
I didn't notice that.
You only see part of the H, but yeah, green logo makes an appearance.
That makes sense because we're in the second half of season 1 at this point.
Yeah, this is after the mid-season break. Everybody's back on board, and so it's like a really good transition. And so Sean and Gus are looking out the front window, and they're recognizing who it is, and they're appreciating how she grew up. Very much.
Sean pretends to read Trish and Captain Connors' lips outside the window, and Sean is reading Trish's lips saying, oh, father. Or no, he doesn't say father.
Yeah, he does. Father.
Oh, I love Sean. I thought Gus said father.
No, Gus says daughter.
Oh, that's it, daughter. Oh, father, I love Sean. I can't wait to be with him forever. And then Gus joins in.
Stop acting crazy, daughter. You know that Gus is the one that you want. Besides, he has abs like Bruce Lee. And which Sean just breaks character. He's like, dude, this has to be remotely believable. Are you kidding? Abs like Bruce Lee. But they start heading into Trish and Captain Connor start to head into the psych office, and I just wrote scatter and act natural.
And that's when Sean and Gus act natural. This is when Trish walks in and Sean starts to, quote, read her and realizes psychically that it is Trish. I say psychically loosely because he obviously knew it was Trish.
Cheating cheater. And then he's like, also being psychic, and goes, why am I sensing your father? Surprise, Captain Connors is also here.
I love when he said, did we ever kiss? I'm sorry.
No.
That vision might be
from the future.
Coming from the not so distant future.
Gus's faces. You can't see that because this is a podcast, but Gus makes the face.
when Captain Connors comes in, he tells Sean and Gus that he thinks that there was a murder, which is a 187, by the way. I wrote it down.
Yes, because it's on his sleeve, and Sean notices that. I'm not using that phrase. And because Captain Connors appears to be having trouble remembering. And so Sean sees this little note to himself written on the cuff of his shirt sleeve. And he says, you witnessed a murder. And that jogs the memory. And he's like, yes, I did. A murder. A 187. I saw it. And I solved it. And then it's like, okay.
But I just can't remember who it was.
Or who did it. So, and we see sticky notes all over this man's briefcase, or attaché case. I don't know what this is or why he has it, because he's retired, but it's clues that he needs reminders. Like, he's having trouble keeping things straight. So this is the first peek we're getting.
I quite enjoy the word attaché, so nice job.
Thank you.
Much like in our opening sequence, Captain Brett Connors looks at Sean and said, "You believe me, don't you?" And Sean said, "Yes, sir, I believe you."
And it was like a little bit emotional, like very, very well done. But like, we've seen that he's a little bit grumpy and a little bit frustrated, and his daughter's trying to be helpful, but it's pointing out to him that things have changed for him. So Captain Connors is a little bit touchy about it, but he is asking for help, and he does recognize that he needs help remembering these things. But he's hoping that Sean, as a psychic, can look into his head and help him get things straight and figure out what he solved, because the police won't take his word for it.
That kind of touching moment ends with the opening credits, which is always a good moment for us. And we have another walk and talk.
Walk and talk. And we're going to the coffee shop that Captain Connors goes to every morning. And Sean says that, bonus, they make daily, fresh, double chocolate mango pineapple scones. So, I'm calling this the
pineapple hunt. Okay, so that's what I clocked as the pineapple as well. But we didn't actually see the pineapple.
We saw the scones when they're sitting down at the table eventually, but, in a moment.
Oh.
Yeah, because first Sean sees a newspaper with a crossword puzzle, and he goes, "Oh no, little eyes, run away!" Because he knows that Henry is there. And Henry and Captain Connors come walking out of the coffee shop, and Captain Connors acts like he hasn't seen the boys in so long. So we're getting another first meeting with him, unfortunately.
So I just want to point out that I also write in all capital letters with little eyes. And I didn't realize that that was something that Henry did until I rewatched this episode. It was from architecture school for me. I just kind of got used to writing it that way.
Huh.
Because big eyes can get confused for L's in the letter 1.
Yeah.
The letter 1, the number 1. So...
So we're getting more clues as to the trouble that Captain Connors is having with his memory. But in the next scene, we're all sitting at the table, and a couple of the guys sitting with Henry and Connors and the boys have plates in front of them with the remnants of scones. And so that's what I said this whole scene is the pineapple scene. We found it. It's here, even though it's not like a whole pineapple.
I support that decision.
Yay.
Once they have their second meet and greet with Captain Brett Connors, we cut to the SBPD, where Sabrina Vito, who is just this tertiary character, talks to Juliet because she's looking for her boyfriend. She's been putting up signs all over the city, including at that coffee shop.
Yeah, and she's like, "I think he's missing. He's not returning calls. He fell off the face of the earth, and I'm really starting to get worried that something happened." And Jules is very caring, and she's like, "Please have a seat. Let's, talk." But it quickly cuts back to the coffee shop,
where Sean is essentially having his second psychic freak out of the episode.
It's a lot.
And he said, "I see a man, 5'9", 5'10" tops, named Mike. He was arguing with someone." And that's when Captain Brett Connors starts kind of remembering. He said, yes, he was arguing with Mort Crocker.
Yeah, that's kind of how he ends it. He kind of like trails off and he goes, they pinned it on a mountain lion. And
That's
then
it.
Henry jumps in with his own little thing. He's like, now let me help out. And he's like, it was a woman. She was very pretty, brunette. Her name was Zoe. And it's like, yeah, Zoe Sharp.
Who likes to play Scrabble.
Aww. And they said it was a mountain lion, but they were wrong. It was a murder. And things get kind of awkward at the table.
And it's kind of implied that, well, it's not just implied. In the next scene,
Yeah.
Henry said to Sean that Henry thinks that Connors is just confusing that murder of Zoe from so long ago, Zoe Sharps, I think her name is, from so long ago, with his confused memories that are going on right now. And that there probably wasn't a murder.
Well, he says he saw Mort Crocker and it brought this memory back, and there were unanswered questions or something from the past, and his timelines for the past and present all get kind of jumbled up, and so he feels like he's experiencing things in the moment all over again. And so, just lay off, Sean, like, don't feed into it. He says, oh, and it breaks your heart, he says he doesn't need your help to look like an old fool. He deserves better than that. And Sean's big thing is like, this guy is your friend. Like, he's asking for help. We should help him. And Henry's like, don't get involved. Like, this is not good to, like, draw attention to, essentially.
As much as I like what Sean's doing in this episode, I think likely if I was in that situation, I would be siding with Henry. I would be saying the same things. I'd be feeling the same things.
I mean, and even if you did, like, get that feedback and take that feedback from Henry, the very next scene in the psych office, and Gus brings to Sean a paper that says, mountain lion killed missing man. So, coincidence?
I think not.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, that would get my spidey senses tingling too. I'd be like, whoa, wait a second. Again? We just had this conversation.
They bring Trish in to kind of tell her their suspicions of what's going on. And Sean just kind of looked at Gus and said, you know what, Gus? You tell it better. I don't need to show off my psychicness. Why don't you tell her what's going on? And so Sean walks away, and Gus stays to talk to Trish.
And Sean pretends to read a book behind Trish's back, and when she looks at him, that's what she sees. And then whenever she turns around to look at Gus, and she's so impressed with how mature Sean has become and how insufferable he used to be in high school, and she's missing where he's dancing and acting like a fool and like rubbing it in Gus's face that he's like getting praised for his good behavior.
He goes from monkey to reading a book to doing this sexy dance, back to reading the book, and then eventually realizes that he's been reading the book upside down and has to flip it over.
Okay, the sexy dance is literally like a standing worm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worm, but standing up. Woo. Sean goes back to Henry, and Henry still doesn't buy it. He says Connors was a great cop because he never accepted the easy answer. You know, he wanted to dig in and really find the truth, not just be like, oh, well, this guy is easily circumstantially the person who did it, so we're going to go with that because we're cops. So this is like a really good example.
Sean said, this isn't a mountain lion, this is when animals attack Santa Barbara.
But we get some background on Mort Crocker at this point. And this is the guy that that Captain Connors suspects was involved with Zoe Sharp and now Mike's disappearance / murder. And apparently his family founded Mort's family restaurant chain, and it was a long-standing rumor that he and Zoe were having an affair, but it was just a rumor. But it was a rumor that, like, cops made it their job to know because they were looking into, you know, the death of this woman. And so, you know, that's what Henry thinks Captain Connors is, like, latching on to. That it was, like, kind of like a rumored, suspicious thing, but the evidence pointed to a big cat attack at this point. And then... did I miss anything in that?
the scene ends with Henry saying, "You're right. You should talk to a mountain lion." Which they do.
They do, because next we're at the Santa Barbara Wildlife Park, which is the zoo, and they're sneaking into a room to look at a mountain lion in a cage.
But the mountain lion that's in the cage actually has this like little mark on its butt. Where
it's got like a bloody spot. And at first I'm like, why is there blood smeared on there? But apparently it's like a scratch on the animal, like the animal's wounded, and it's the animal's blood. So we don't have to wonder too long about that. Like it'll come to light later. But
once Sean realizes that, he just starts making James Earl Jones references.
I was gonna say, he just like walks into the scene going, "Simba, I am your father." Gus goes, Mufasa never said that.
Mufasa, Darth Vader, I'm Not Rappaport, all of them are James Earl Jones. And then...
No, I'm Not Rappaport, it was Oscar Davis.
That's it.
Was it Isaac or Oscar? Crap.
I think it was Ozzie Davis.
Ozzie Davis, sorry. I'm sorry. I wrote that down weird. I can't even read my handwriting.
So we did really quickly back to back Lion King, Star Wars, and I'm Not Rappaport, all of which, well, except for I'm Not Rappaport, were voiced by James Earl Jones, Mufasa, and Darth Vader.
So Sean says how cats love him, and he loves cats, and it's quickly proven that this is a very, very hungry cat who wants to eat them, just like Gus says it does. So they scurry out, and they're confronted with a wildlife park employee. I guess she runs the place? Or at least the big, yeah.
I think so.
The big cat part.
And she was trying to figure out who they were, and Sean immediately sees these tags sitting on the side table or something that have names on them. And so Sean introduced himself as...
Oh, Dr. Hans Jorgensen?
That's it. And then...
This is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Mick Doc.
My notes say Dr. Mick low click ×5 talk. But she wasn't expecting to see them until tomorrow.
Yeah, because he saw that there are badges waiting for people, and so he just like stole their identities, and he's like, "Will we arrive early?"
The woman's name was Joan, and
Joan Walker.
Joan tries to say Gus's fake name, and when she tries to say it, Sean like corrects her and then adds more clicks the second time.
But she inadvertently uttered a vile obscenity.
But don't worry, Dr. Mick Tok is very forgiving.
Oh, he only has a preschool level understanding of the English.
Of the English language.
Yeah, but he knows I'm sorry and he fully accepts it. So it's fine. Anyway, they're talking about why is this the kitty who is the man-eater in the cage in the next room.
Joan says he's not a man-eater. The only reason why he attacked was because he was extremely malnourished.
Well, she makes pains to say if he attacked, it's only because he's hungry and underfed. And they're like, why is this kitty so malnourished? And she explains, like, yeah, it's weird. We had record rainfall. There's lots of vegetation for his normal prey to feed on. So he should be fat, but for some reason, this particular cat is underweight.
Perhaps it's because everyone in California is on the diet. All of the serving boys and model girls. Someone, anyone, please give them a sandwich. Yeah.
And it's like, it's played as a really bad joke because, yeah, it's a really bad joke. No one should make those jokes. Shut up. But it's really funny and cringy when he does it as like a pretend foreign person. I'm sorry. And maybe that's offensive, but it's really funny.
Oh, I thought that was very funny. I thought, yeah, no, it was beautiful. But Joan gets a call on the line that she needs a doctor to give birth to a new baby warthog.
Dr. Mick Tok is supposedly this great veterinarian, and will he please help them? And they have a ridiculous non-Xhosa conversation using animal noises and clicks.
Did you catch that the conversation kind of started with Pumbaa?
And then he's meerkat.
And then at one point he says meerkat. Because that's the reference that the man with a preschool knowledge of English knows. Definitely that Pumbaa from The Lion King was a warthog.
Right. So apparently we're accepting the challenge of assisting with this, and Sean says, guys, don't worry, just pull at the right time. Cut to.
Oh, Gus ran away screaming like a girl.
My eyes! And then he vomits into a trash can.
I know that bit doesn't come up super often, but that's one of my favorites. I love Gus running away screaming like a girl.
100%. We get another one of mine, coming up pretty soon, so we'll get there. But we're back at SBPD, and Crocker is sitting down with Lassie and Jules. And take it away, Alexis, because I can't be trusted.
So, I don't know if you felt this way, but I feel like / observed that the gentleman playing Crocker was a very bad actor. Did you get that vibe at all?
I didn't. I just felt like he was being uncooperative.
Oh, I literally have a note here that says very bad acting. But because he's being questioned about the missing man and the missing woman, Crocker was upset because he realizes that Captain Brett Connors had fingered him as a potential suspect for this, case, Kaylee, you're a child.
Say it again. No, don't. Yeah, so he says, they bring up this case, were you arguing with this missing guy, murdered, big cat killed guy, and then something about Zoe Sharp. And...
That was so Sean of you, Kaylee.
But yeah, so he instantly goes, this is because of that damn Crocker or Connors guy.
He's still caught up in that case from 20 years ago.
Yeah, and Lassie's just like, I really can't say.
Sean and Gus are at a closed trail on the edge of the woods, close to where the big cat, the mountain lion, was found.
That's where they believe the attack took place, and it's closed down because of that. And Gus, the ever dutiful rule follower, is like, it's closed. We can't, dead end. We can't be a part of this.
Sean just looked for a minute and thought for a minute and then hopped the chain and said, dude, we totally made it. We're in.
Love that. Gus still doesn't want to do it, but they're gonna go down the trail anyway, and Sean says he is a tracker. And because he worked at a casino one time with some esteemed Native Americans, and he thinks he learned a thing or two, but he is the only white dude to be awarded the feather? Something, yeah.
It was a feather of something.
But he worked there for a very short amount of time, so I'm like, did you actually earn something, or was that them making fun of you because you're just a white boy?
Sean just starts randomly pointing out these prints along the path, but first it's black lab. Okay, there'd be a black lab print. Next one, Akita. Yes, because you'd definitely be able to tell that that's an Akita print. Next one, lizard, flamingo.
Flamingo? So eventually he finds what he says are mountain lion tracks, and then he's like, we just have to follow these to the kill zone, and blah, blah, blah. So they do.
And when they're at the kill zone, again, I'm going to ask the question, do you feel like Sean was pretending to be psychic when there was no one around to be psychic about? He seemed very dramatic about all of it with Gus.
Yeah, I mean, me and my boy just like the drama of the moment. But it does look like he found something. So I think he's just really excited that his bluff is paying off. I would be. But when he's tracking the mountain lion tracks, he says it is a Felis McClure. But I found the scientific name for the mountain lion, and it's not Felis McClure. Or anything remotely like that. It's Puma concolor.
Oh.
Genus and species. So.
Do we think that Felix was a reference to the cartoon cat named Felix?
Oh, I thought Felis, like there are
Oh,
cats
like-
whose genus and species are Felis something.
Oh.
Yeah, but not
Okay,
the
then.
mountain lion. So they find the kill zone and they find something weird. The drag marks of, where the prey, or, this missing guy who was supposedly killed by this cat would have been dragged are the opposite direction of the way the cat prints go, which, if the cat did the killing and he dragged his prey, shouldn't they be together?
Yep.
So that's weird. And then all of a sudden,
Sean said, "This cat was framed
and then a ranger. So they've
with
been
a
caught.
big old gun."
Don't you know this is closed? Apparently you can't read.
We cut really directly to the Rangers kind of station, and Sean and Gus are completely wrapped up underneath a blanket eating hot soup.
Out of cups, just like little mugs of soup, and they're like pretending to shiver. And as soon as the ranger walks away, Gus is like, I'm sweltering in here. Why do we have to shiver? He's like, because you've been exposed to the elements for 2 nights, wandering the woods.
Now shiver!
They keep faking this guy out, and they even ask for crackers, and the guy's like, all I have are saltines. Gus is super into eating these crackers and dipping them in the soup. Like, he's just savoring this, because why not?
The Ranger's name is Ranger DeSoto, and when he's going to find these crackers for Sean and Gus is looking around, and he immediately notices a picture of Ranger DeSoto with Crocker and Edna.
Is it
hanging on
Gus
the
or
wall.
Sean who notices it?
Dang it! I have to have one of these in every episode. Okay.
It's your
Sean-
thing.
Sean immediately notices that there is a picture of Ranger DeSoto with Crocker and Edna kind of hanging on one of his walls. And then he also clocks the giant cage outside that has a bloody, like rail in the corner. Yes, I said clocks, just be okay with it.
I'm okay with it. I'm just glad it's not me. It's gonna be our thing. I love that. Yeah, so it looks like the scrape that Sean noticed on the cat may have been caused by this loose wire in this cage outside the ranger station, which is kind of weird, right? Like, sus.
But
So,
Gus points out that it could have been when they caught the mountain lion and transported it to the wildlife center. That could have been when the cat got the mark.
totally. Except when they're asking, for Gus's edification, because he was afraid when they were lost in the woods that they would be eaten by some kind of animal. Does that thing actually happen around here? And something weird happens. The ranger starts talking about how it's been such a dry year, and how, the cats might be underfed, and, this thing can happen, especially on years like this. So that doesn't jibe with what the animal expert told them.
Correct.
And then I love this thing that Sean does where he asks a completely irrelevant question just to redirect attention so that he and Gus can give each other a look like a "come on, son" look. It's very good. So we get
The
that.
question was, is that real mahogany? And the boys just look at each other like, what? Why are they lying? Why is he lying?
Yeah.
Are you
what the
kidding?
heck?
Come on, son. All
Come
those
on,
good.
son.
Come on, son. So we cut back to the SBPD. And
And this is where Captain Connors, in all his policeman regalias, is walking through the precinct, talking about, get me Henry Spencer, and get me the file for the Zoe Sharp case. And then he's going to his desk, which is now Lassiter's desk, which he carefully points out. And he does try to be sensitive. Like, he's making moves. He's like, oh, something's weird here. Should we maybe call someone? But instant pushback from Captain Connors. An instant,
you want to dance, pal? You just name that tune.
confrontation. And we also get the boys walking and talking through the precinct. And then they're confronted by Trish. And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't find my father. I'm so glad I ran into you guys here. And then we hear the hubbub and we go back and Lassiter's legit being punched by this guy. And he's trying to withhold himself because he knows something's going on, but he quickly gets pushed to his limit and acts like he's going to, like, return the aggression. And it's like, dude, come on. But this old guy's baiting his ass.
We get a nice Lassie manhandles somebody moment, which we haven't had for a while.
Yeah, this one's not quite as nice, but he is just restraining the older gentleman, probably for all of their safety, because he's been punched in the nose already, and he doesn't want to hurt this guy.
Again, in this situation, I understand what's going on, but I probably would have sided with Lassie.
But I am proud of Lassiter for attempting sensitivity, and I'm like, Jules wasn't even here to see it. So I just wrote fisticuffs.
When Sean and Gus and Trish walk up, immediately Connors calls Sean Henry.
He's like, don't tell me I look like my dad. And Gus tells him he could be his twin. He goes, is my hair thinning even just a little bit at the back? But he plays into the role, and he's like, don't you know who this man is? And he like kind of accepts responsibility. Captain Connors wants to launch an investigation through internal affairs, and Gus as Henry is just like, yeah, I'll draw up the paperwork. You go home and rest. And so they send him with Trish.
Which was a really good de-escalation technique on Sean's part.
Yeah, I thought that worked out well. It's just kind of like acknowledge and like offer a solution and move past the moment. But So he and Gus are talking to each other, and then they notice the weeping woman on the bench with the box that says M. Is it Mitchell? What was that last name?
McMillan.
And he's like, oh, it's the girlfriend. So they sit down, and he's being like the very caring psychic, and he says, was his name Mike? Because it's not written on the box, it's just an M initial. And she's like, yeah. And so he's getting some background on like why Mike was even in the area. He's not from around here. She's got a box of his stuff.
He was visiting from Pennsylvania to help or to try to find his birth parents. And the girlfriend said that she thought he had found his dad. He was a wealthy man, but he was really difficult to get to. And that's when, during that kind of conversation, Sean had been kind of snooping through the box in his very Sean-like way where he doesn't actually touch anything. And he kind of notes two big things. That there's like moss or potting soil on the bottom of Mike's shoes. And that Mike has a biotin prescription.
Yeah, which is weird because you can totally buy that over the counter. But
you can.
Depending on like the dosage, I think, and like probably if it's cheaper if you have a prescription because you have a particular need. But at this point, I wrote Zoe equals mom, ? And then dash rich daddy. Because we have another rich daddy in this show.
Hot dang, Kaylee. What you guys didn't see, because you can't see our cameras, is that I was taking a drink of water when Kaylee said rich daddy and almost spit it out all over my computer.
It might be my favorite new phrase. Ooh.
Rich daddy, okay.
So Sean and Gus are taking a walk and discussing a biotin prescription, and Gus says that if he has a deficiency that can be hereditary, and they decide it's no paternity test, but if they search in Rich Daddy's prescriptions like they did on the previous Rich Daddy episode, lots of prescriptions in Rich Daddy's, you guys, you know, they might get a clue and be able to point the police in the right direction with some evidence. So they decide they want to snoop on his house, and they show up to the front gate.
When they get there, Sean immediately sees a security camera that's in the bird feeder or the bird house in the front of the house. And they realize that they're not getting in through the front. So they try to kind of sneak in through the back. And
because there's like a hubbub. It looks like an event is getting set up, and they've got like all kinds of trucks and people milling about. So maybe they can blend in.
As soon as they walk through, they immediately get stopped. And
it looks like a gardener at first. And they're like, come on, don't let the man get you down. Like don't adhere to their rules. Damn the man, and let us liberate you. And she's like, I'm Edna Crocker, and I'm low-key the worst. She doesn't say that, but she totally is. Oh my gosh, she is the man.
Yeah, Edna Crocker is the lady of the house, and she knew that they weren't the event planner or the event planner assistants. She knew that they weren't supposed to be there, and she politely and promptly tells them to leave, which they do. And they go to a pharmacy.
Yeah, I guess I'm hating on her for not wanting people trespassing on her grounds, but rich people are the worst. Anyway.
At least you didn't say she sucks.
Well, she does, but I have other words for her later in this episode. Anyways, apparently Sean got a talking to, and while that was happening, Gus was making calls to pharmacies. And so they show up at one, and they start asking about pickups for prescriptions for Mort Crocker.
The woman said, "Oh, there's no prescriptions for him. I don't have anything." And Sean starts, like, jonesing, which I don't understand at all.
I was like, is he just, like, being a stressed assistant, or is he jonesing? I wrote that. I was like, is he acting like he's super stressed out, or, like, he's coming down off of a drug?
It seemed, I mean, the whole, like, thumb in mouth, like, pushing on the top of his mouth kind of thing seemed like he was coming down off of a drug, or he was just trying to freak the woman out, which worked.
Yeah, he totally stresses her, and she's like, there hasn't been anything for a month, the blah, 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 and, what does Gus say? Or they go, oh, what was that? Was that the penicillin? And she's like, no, something about biotin. And I'm like, wait, is all of this a HIPAA violation?
Yeah.
Should she be, like, in trouble?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it absolutely is.
Oh, my gosh. She didn't ask who they were, not once. Like, honey.
I think they did introduce themselves as his, like, assistant at the beginning.
I don't know. I didn't hear
that. I thought they did.
We're here to ask about a prescription for Mort Crocker. Like, Gus came in, like, smooth and businesslike, but I don't remember that, so.
They eventually find out that, yes, he in fact does take biotin, or he has a biotin prescription, which means he likely has a biotin deficiency, which is hereditary, and...
he's likely the rich daddy!
There we go!
I promise we don't have to name this episode Rich Daddy 2.
So, Trish, Captain Brett Connors, Sean, Gus, Juliet, and Lassiter are all at the coffee shop. And they're standing outside, and Sean said, I have an eyewitness.
It's the poster of Missing Mike.
Sean.
Oh my god, is that a Magic Mike reference I just made?
Okay, I'll take it. I did just watch a very, very funny movie with Channing Tatum. So.
Missing Mike, Magic Mike? Okay, no, never mind.
Back to it. Sean recaps. And Sean told everyone that Mike's poster had been talking to him and said that Crocker had killed Zoe Sharps. And that's when Connors kind of puts everything together and said, and now he killed the baby. And
well, okay, so here's the thing. In 1986, when Zoe was thought to be killed by lions, it kind of made sense. It was a really dry year, and Connor says they got lucky. It got rid of the evidence for them, and it covered up the murder. But this time, it was a frame job on the cat, essentially, and it doesn't make sense for it to have been mountain lions, but they were trying to use that excuse again. So...
and they point out that they think Ranger DeSoto, although Sean calls him Ranger DeSoup at this point, which is funny.
Because he gave them soup.
Yes, Ranger DeSoto. Ranger DeSoto provided the lion. And that's
Connor says DeSoto sounds familiar, and
yes.
He doesn't know why yet.
He couldn't quite figure it out, but
for some reason he's helping to cover up this murder. And
Lassiter said that there's no way it was Crocker because Crocker had been in Chicago when Mike was killed, and that Lassiter had personally checked his alibi.
Yeah, he was like giving a lecture in front of 200 plus people, so he definitely did not kill Mike. But Crocker's like, Connor, dang. So
that's why I keep calling him Captain Brett Connors, because I can say it all at once.
He's like off, and Lassiter is like, he wouldn't do anything stupid, would he? When
they're all running off, Sean grabs Mike's poster from the panel board thing, right, and takes it with them. So
they run off after Connors because, oh no, he might do something crazy like confront Crocker.
I have a weird, fun cheating fact here that I got from Amazon.
Bring it.
If you pause it when Sean rips that poster of Mike off, you'll see that there are 2 or 3 posters hanging up. One of them is a poster of somebody looking for a first edition Green Spirit comic. And it said, if anyone has one, call Sean. And then there's another, because it's the one that Sean had
Sean
ripped in half.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's another one that said, like, missing pocket watch, inscription, do not lose Henry, call Sean.
Oh my gosh, those are gold.
It's worth going back and seeing it because it's quite funny. It's just a split second. It took me like 3 tries to pause it in the right place.
I love that kind of little Easter eggy stuff that they do like just for themselves mostly. Like
after they grab the poster, we end up at the fundraiser. I think it's a fundraiser.
I just wrote Crocker event ? Like what is this supposed to be? Anyway, Captain Brett Connors runs up to Crocker and he's trying to make an arrest and he's like, I know you did it, damn it. And I just wrote, that bitch Edna is laughing at the captain. So.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, she fully like laughs at him because she's like wandering up like, what's going on, dear? And then like when, you know, Lassie and them start chasing him and he runs off, she's like, and laughs at, I hate her so much.
When Sean runs in to catch Captain Brett Connors, he's screaming. And again, I don't know if you noticed it. I noticed this on my own. This wasn't a nifty Amazon treat. But the string quartet that's playing starts playing this like high chase adventure music in the background.
I did not notice. Oh, man.
You can actually see that the strings like change and that they're actually playing that sound.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, they're running all around and he runs into Captain Connors runs into the greenhouse and he like runs all around and hides. And so they all enter and Sean notices the spilled topsoil and then he walks around and he finds Connors, but Connors gives this shushing motion and Sean's like, bro, I got you. And and he's like, he was here. Lassie's like, no, duh. We saw him come in here. He's like, no, not Captain Connors.
But there was a muffling sound. Sean was trying to figure out why he couldn't quite hear what was going on. And he had to take the poster of Mike out of his pocket and unfold it. Edna comes in and Edna wants them to leave. Nobody gets in my greenhouse.
That's not exactly true though, is it? Because Mike was here. And if you check his shoes, you'll find that topsoil, and it'll match all on the bottom of his soles.
Sean starts to imply that Edna was the one who had killed.
Yeah, well.
No, not starts to imply. Sean said, oh, I get it now. Earlier when you said Crocker, you didn't mean Mr. Crocker, you meant Mrs. Crocker. Because Edna was the one who had killed Mike in the greenhouse. That's when Captain Brett Connors stands up and said, that's where I know that name from. Your maiden name was Edna DeSoto.
Boom. John, the ranger, her brother DeSoto, is covering up murders for her. So she killed Zoe because her husband was having an affair with her, and she's a cowardly coward who didn't want to get a divorce because she's a greedy rich lady. And then she killed the love child.
Mike, as a poster, so kindly points out the security camera in the front that's in the bird feeder and said,
which is going to prove.
You're going to see that Mike was here. You'll see it on the camera. And that's when Edna just straight up admits to it. She said,
Crocker's like, what did you do? She's like, you would have given him half of everything we worked so hard for to build.
Just like you would have for his mother.
It's like, he was my son. So, like, this guy doesn't get a lot of airtime. I think you're probably right. I think he's probably, like, I don't know, like, not the best actor, but he didn't have a lot to work with either.
That's true.
But, yeah. So, Mort, I wrote, is a whole ass, but he's not a murderer. He's just,
Agreed.
He's just a stupid man who's cheating on women and should have gotten a divorce because clearly these people are toxic.
And he's a rich daddy.
He's a rich daddy. And Edna's a greedy murderer.
That's true. There's this beautiful moment after Edna, like, admits to it all that Captain Brett Connors said, officers, arrest this woman. And Lassiter said, officers, you heard the captain. Get him out of here.
Oh, and they're also
And
putting out a bolo for that stupid
they're
brother
putting
of
out
her.
the yep. But it's just kind of a moment where they accept the fact that Captain Brett Connors knew what he was talking about the whole time.
Hell yeah. And then, cut to the next scene at the coffee shop. He's holding a
Oh wait. We get a good Sean Gus fist bump. And Mike's kind of in that fist bump.
Thanks for stopping that. But at the coffee shop in the next scene, Captain Connors is holding a commendation from the SBPD, and it says like how he's retired, and it was so great.
Connors and Henry are at a table with their coffee, and Trish, Sean, and Gus are at a totally separate table, just kind of having a nice breakfast. I don't exactly know how we get there, but at some point Sean said, "Speaking of lumps, that ostrich in the tennis ball. What happened there?" And Trish gets mad. "You'll never let this go."
She's still playing dumb, though. Yeah, she's like, what are you talking about? You really never let that go. You haven't grown up at all. You'll never change.
Trish kind of runs away, and Sean kind of said that he tanked.
He implies that he's like, "Gus, what are you waiting for? Go get your girl." And like, "I'm out of the way now." And Gus is like, "Don't even pretend that you did that on purpose."
Sean goes, "Show her the abs. Show her the abs." And Gus said, "Not until you challenge me straight up." And that's how the scene ends with Sean saying, "Fine. I will be kissing Trish in 10 minutes. And Gus said, "Not if I get there first." And they ran to meet Trish.
Children. Stupid children. All of them. Trish isn't going to admit what she did when she was a little kid, which we all know she did. And the boys are acting like, I don't know, if you pull her pigtails, you can get a girl they like you. It's so dumb, but it's very on brand.
They might as well just play dibs, like.
Right? Okay, so in the greenhouse scene, we missed a part where, and this is sort of a thing, and Maggie admitted that she and Rhoda tried to make this a thing where, like, Juliet would sneeze and Sean would say, "Bless you." And so they tried to sneak it in a whole bunch, and it usually got cut out, but, like, we'll see it again, I think. But we do see it in this greenhouse, and then...
So, when I was watching it, I said to myself, like, what was the point of that? Why all of a sudden, like, are we just finding out that she's allergic to flowers? Like, I'm allergic to flowers. Does James Roday Rodriguez get to tell me, "Bless you"?
Yes.
I would be okay for that. James Roday Rodriguez, just throwing it out there.
I also wrote, there's no Chief Vic in this episode. We made room for Captain Connors in our hearts, and we lost a little bit of Chief Vic screen time, so.
There wasn't any Chief Vic in the last episode, though, was there?
Oh, was there not?
There wasn't.
Oh, she got referenced. Oh, no. No, wasn't she giving birth in the last episode? Because she and Lassiter were gone?
You're 100% correct.
Like, no, she wasn't at the con. That's where my mind went.
She did, in fact, give birth. So yeah, we didn't have Vic in this episode, but she did just have a baby. Now, again, weird fun fact that I found out from Amazon. Kristen Nelson?
Yeah.
Actually gave birth much earlier on in season 1. And so she had to wear a baby bump.
Yeah, when she was hired, she was pregnant, like when she auditioned and stuff, and they kind of loved it. She wasn't like showing super duper duper bad or anything, but like she was like, how far into this process do I need to let you guys know that I'm pregnant and I will be showing? And they're like, "Oh, we love that idea of like a pregnant like chief," like so because she's holding it down.
She's doing a great job, and she's about to have a little Chief Vic baby, so I'm all up for Chief Baby, whose name I don't remember, but I know we find out very soon, and I really like that episode, so I'm excited. Oh,
good, yeah. And yeah, she had to wear like a whole bodysuit, and it's like nowadays you don't quite have to do like the full onesie pregnant belly, but yeah, it was not quite as comfortable as they can be these days.
But that's our episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think we have anything else. I thought it was like a really clean pineapple hunt. Like we saw scones, we didn't see pineapple, but they did explain to us what we were seeing, much like the smoothie. So those are fun.
That was good. After the Red Phantom episode, I felt like this episode was kind of short on pop culture references, just because that one was hitting them like every scene.
Oh, yeah.
This one was much, much more subtle, but I liked it.
Yeah, we got a lot in, like, that one scene. Like, a lot of
Jones.
Lion King and James Earl Jones. But, yeah. Yeah, and I liked it because, like, we got to see everybody a little bit at play. Not as much Jules and Lassiter as usual, but, I mean, like, we're going to get those, like, differently balanced episodes, too, so.
Mm-hmm.
Woo-woo.
No, I totally agree. And I like the Henry heavy. I love more Henry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to smack Henry upside the head, but for the most part, I really like when Henry's in.
I feel like even
more
those
predominant in
times
the
are
episodes.
telling us something important about the characters and the relationships. So, like, yeah.
Yes. Very, very much.
Woohoo. Hug your grandparents. And, you
Yeah.
know, Alzheimer's and degenerative diseases are really not well understood. The brain is a crazy mystery still, and we're looking into it. But, yeah, it's...
You know that's right.
It's sad to see. I think we both
Yeah.
have experience with it, so...
That's a thing. It's a different thing. It's a difficult thing. As long as we're talking about degenerative diseases, I want to share a story with you about my grandma.
Oh.
So I alluded to this earlier when we were recording, not today but before, but grandma had Parkinson's disease. So grandma's body was just done. Her muscles had just gone away, but her brain was still there. Like, she was still fully cognitive. She still knew what was going on. She couldn't speak very well because those muscles just weren't there. But she was in a nursing home, and the nurses would walk in and see grandma kind of looking like a vegetable, and they would just talk about whatever they wanted, often about their sex lives. And when grandma had good days, grandma would tell us about her nurses' sex lives, and it was hilarious.
Get it, Grandma.
Yeah, so if you have a family member out there who is in a nursing home, who maybe people wouldn't realize are in a good mental place, point that out, because it was very embarrassing when my mother, and you know my mother, she's not shy about crap like that. No. My mother walked up to them and said, "Listen, Miss Ross knows everything you guys are talking about, and she's telling us about it. So you guys need to clean it up."
Oh. Yeah, girls, my goodness.
That is a grandparent story that I have been debating writing into my favorite murder for quite a while now. But it just always cracks me up.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to send it in. They never read one of mine once, but I send them in.
I don't have murders, but I've got grandparent stories. That's a really good one. So yes, the brain is a fascinating thing, the way it works. And again, if you had to skip this episode and you came in for the end here, I hope you laughed about my grandma, because she was pretty awesome. And I hope that you understand that even though this is a comedy and we all laughed about it and there were funny moments, like, it is a real thing that people struggle with, and we're here to support that.
Yeah, 100%. I think
cool.
I think this is a really fun episode, and it's got a lot of heart, so I really love it.
It does. And again, like, I keep talking about Henry, and I feel dumb about that, but we see Henry's heart come out a lot in this, the way he's trying to support Connors.
Yeah.
The way he's trying to stand up for him. Like, you can tell that there's a real relationship there, that Henry is happy is a real thing. Like,
it's funny because, like, even though Connors is grumpy and he even tells Henry to shut up at one point, it's like they have that relationship that's like, no, shut up for a minute, let the kid talk. Like, and I love that Sean and Henry are both trying to help this man they both clearly respect and adore, and they're doing it in different ways, but their hearts are both in the right places, and I love seeing that. That's good. I love them.
Totally agree.
All right.
This has been To the Blueberry!
Well, I'm Kaylee, and one mountain lion, two mountain lion, mountain lions!
I always love your quotes. I'm Alexis. Dad, you're amazing. Maybe my psychic gift is hereditary. This has been
To the Blueberry! Psych out!